Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Battleground. I am your humble host, Austin Pez Howell. Yes, your favorite debater, your top contender, the guy you love to watch, the guy who gets those views. You know who I am. But here tonight, I am not competing. I know you wish I was, but I'm not. But tonight, I am guest hosting what should be a very fun match of international warfare. It's an intercontinental match as we've got the Aussies and the Kiwis are going to slug it out. Those friendly neighbors are going to go to war, and I can't wait for it. Two guys I am very, very familiar with here in this community, Malcolm Lay and Richie Goodacre, two guys that know each other very, very well. They faced off in many a trivia tournaments and many a tournament fights, stereo fights over on the Movie Hero Network, whatever the case may be. But tonight they are going to go toe to toe. Like I said, in debate. It should be a whole lot of fun. So let's get things going here, shall we? As I talk to them one at a time, introducing first with a record of 1 win and 5 losses, the Kiwi himself, Malcolm Lay. Malcolm, what's going on, sir? How are you doing?
I'm going good. Just as prepared as I always am. So.
which is maybe some, like a little bit.
Just a little bit. I'm usually here to have fun. Like I've probably spent most of my prep just focusing on a question that I really hope we get to, but so yeah.
A question that I didn't get to in one of my matches. We'll get to it if we get to it. But yeah, no, I know you're a guy who, you're not in this to win titles necessarily or decimate your opponents. I know you as you like to say, you're just here to have a little fun, right?
Yeah,
no, totally. I totally get it. So let's see. I think this is going to be a fun one. I like your questions that you guys are going to have. I imagine you're not much of a promo guy, so I'll probably drop you out, let Richie come on in, and we'll get things started. Malcolm's a man of business, and I can appreciate that. All right, so I'll see you in just a minute, Malcolm. Introducing his opponent from across the pond, from the great continent of Australia, Richie Goodacre. How you doing, Richie? 2 wins, 4 losses, I should say. 1 KO. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Yeah, man, good. Going good, man. Me and Malcolm know each other pretty well. We tend to be on opposite ends in terms of takes. So we tend to bicker on tournament fights and tier ranker. So it'd be good to sort of air that all out in the form of Movie Battleground, and I think that should be fun. I think it'll be good spirited debate.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, you're a guy that I know you were anxious to kind of jump into this in the last 2 seasons, and you've had your ups and downs. You do have some wins on your record, but you've had a couple of losses that I know 1 or 2 of them have kind of frustrated you, with how they went, the ones that you think maybe you should have won. But you do have a KO, which is nothing to sneeze at. So, yeah, how you looking at coming into this one? You hoping to get your 3rd win tonight?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get my 3rd win. I like the answers to some of my questions. I do, there are some tough ones. I do, I do hope we get to the sort of the last question on the docket here, because I feel like there is we'll get to it if we get to it, but I feel like I've got a case where I can definitely destroy his argument. So we'll see what happens.
Everybody thinks that until they actually get into the argument, and then you hear what the judges were looking for sometimes. So no, if anybody knows that, it's me. I think you've got a lot of confidence, and we'll see what happens, sir. Are you ready to go?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Let's just drop you out here for just a second. Movie Battleground, as I get to our wonderful little banners here, is a best of 5 point matchup. Each round is worth 1 point. If you get that elusive 3 points in a row, you get a knockout, something I'm very familiar with 4 knockouts, the current record holder here in Movie Battleground. Not trying to humble brag, but it's just a fact. It's true. But if we do have a tie, 2-2 after 4 rounds, we go to that blind round. And how it works is that rounds 1 through 4, each guy will get a chance to do a 60-second opening argument. It'll be then expanded into a 2-minute solo pitch. My favorite part, the 4-minute open back and forth debate, and then a final 60-second closing round out argument. Once that is completed, then we will go to our judges. And we've got 3 judges here tonight. We got Maria, Zachary, and Ryan. Hopefully, Ryan will be here. He's having a little issues here and there. If he doesn't, I will step in as 3rd judge tonight. But that is how it's going to work. So let's bring our competitors back in here. And as I will go ahead and get this first question going. It's an interesting question from a guy we see a lot in the MCU, but has done a lot of stuff outside the MCU. And here's the question we're going to talk about. So I'll lay out the premise essentially. The competitors were given a choice of Drew Goddard, the Russos, Ron Howard, Taika Waititi, and Joss Whedon. And the question was then, of those given directors, which one has the best filmography with Chris Hemsworth? So both guys made a decision on this one. So what we'll do is Richie chose to go first as the favorite on questions 1 and 3. So in just a second, I will bring you guys up, bring the timer up, and Richie, you will start first. But
picking the best filmography, I wanted to pick the best filmography that kind of really showcases Chris Hemsworth as an actor and the sort of versatility of Chris Hemsworth as an actor. And I think the director that gets the most out of him in this regard is Drew Goddard. So I picked Drew Goddard. You've got you got Cabin in the Woods. This is where he's sort of first introduced into the international sphere. I guess it was firstly Thor, but this was going to be like his first introduction. And you can see his sort of comedic sensibilities, which which I don't think are fully explored until later in Thor. I think you can see how charismatic he is, and then like on the other end you've got Bad Times Are Out, which also shows his charisma.
All right, that is time for Richie. All right, we'll bounce back over to Malcolm, and Malcolm, I will start the clock back up as soon as you begin speaking.
Yes, so this thing I mentioned is I took this the absolutely opposite way of what Richie did, because I took the Russo brothers because like Infinity War and Endgame, they're both really good movies, and they really had a hard job to sort of take 10 years of the MCU and wrap it all up in one final bow at the end there. Yes, they were involved with Extraction, but they didn't direct Extraction. And I think what the Russo brothers managed to do and take each of the characters in Infinity War and that they gave them their own sort of arcs and they gave them sort of enough room that none of the characters felt like they were sidelined for too much of their 2 movies. Okay,
and that's going to be time for Malcolm. Richie, we'll go back to you, sir, for your 2-minute expansion whenever you begin.
Yeah, I picked Drew Goddard because I just feel like that while Russo Brothers does Avengers and just Avengers movies, and yes, Thor gets plenty of screen time. I do feel like there's much more screen time dedicated to Chris Hemsworth in both these other movies, and it kind of more showcases his range, where as opposed to just playing one character, you've got him playing the sort of the funny sort of jock in Cabin in the Woods, and then you got him playing like sort of a Charles Manson cult leader type, very charismatic dude who he plays scarily good in Bad Times at the Royale. And I just feel like that kind of exemplifies like more what he can do. Yeah, like I know, like with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, he goes through an arc and he gets more he is very charismatic, and he does go through an emotional arc. But I would argue maybe Taika Waititi brought that more out of him than the Russo brothers. They just sort of capitalized on that because prior to that, Thor was kind of a boring character, to be honest. So yeah, but like yeah, but I feel like I think Drew Goddard earlier on, you know, knew what he had in Chris Hemsworth and knew what he was capable of, and utilized his charisma to the best of his ability with these characters, and 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 he steals both these movies with just how funny and charismatic he really is, and yeah.
Okay, and that'll be Richie's 2 minute extension. Malcolm will bounce back to you for your 2 minutes whenever you start speaking.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the way the question was worded is like Richards has the best filmography with Chris Hemsworth, not the best one that showcases Chris Hemsworth. And I think like with the Russos, like Video and Endgame are definitely quite constantly in the top 10 of people's list of the MCU, and they're both like really high numbers on Rotten Tomatoes, even though those are just numbers and they don't mean anything. I'm bringing them up anyway. And yeah, I mean, Cabin in the Woods and Bad Times at the they are like good movies. But for me personally, I find that Chris Hemsworth is not the better part of those movies, and I'm more enjoying the other characters around it, and I kind of don't really like Chris Hemsworth's acting in those movies. But it's just one of those ones that to me just felt really one note, and there, and I do understand that. I think Cabin in the Woods was Hemsworth's first movie anyway. But it's just one of those ones that I think just didn't work for me. But I think like Infinity War and Endgame, I think they make a really perfect sort of ending, and I think they utilized well. Yes, before in them, they versed his character was more molded in Ragnarok, which came sort of just before Infinity War. But I think Russo Brothers did a good job of taking what Taika did and expanding more in it in these movies.
Okay, and that'll be time on the expansion. Now we come to my favorite portion of these debates. This is the 4 minute back and forth discussion. Gentlemen, please let each other speak at different points. It is a back and forth, and other than that, I hope it gets ugly. So I'll begin the debate whenever the first person starts speaking.
I don't know. I just feel that his performances in these movies being like one note. Obviously he's being asked in Bad Times Royale. He's been asked to sort of channel Charles Manson type characters, and I think there is a bit more nuance to his performance than you sort of maybe giving credit for, and yeah, I think. Like I think there's more to it than being one note, and yeah, I mean, I honestly, I do, I think Cabin in the Woods in general as a film is probably I would sort of rate it higher than Endgame. I was a bit disappointed by Endgame. Yeah, Infinity was good, but I don't think it's just like I don't really see the two Avengers film as a good one to punch. I see it as like a great film, and then slightly less good film, and it doesn't. I don't feel like it fully showcases his range, and I there's different ways you can interpret the question, but like I was sort of interpreting it the best. Yeah, obviously the best two movies with Chris Hemsworth, but also the best that utilizes Chris Hemsworth, and I think Drew Goddard does that bit better.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones like this. It's what is going to make this one a little bit hard because we both are both coming at it different interpretations, which is going to make this interesting to judge. I know that much. But but it's just one of those ones like, um, well, yes, Strugar may have like got a lot more out of Chris Hemsworth and all that. Um, I will still sort of stand my ground here, and just sort of say what I say. I do think Infinity War and Endgame is still his best two movies that there. But it with Cameron Woods, I think the story itself is like it's fine. But it's just one of those ones that I think there definitely could have been more fine tuning, and I think Bad Times at Well as a movie on its own, I think is personally really brilliant. But it's just, um, but I find the other characters more interesting than Chris Hemsworth. So
But yeah, and you could sort of, I will just sort of finish off by saying like, I feel like you even admitted that you undercut your own argument by kind of mentioning the Rotten Tomatoes thing, because yeah, like sometimes the audience score and like the critic score are vastly different. So yeah, it's just it's not like that's not like a doesn't really cement argument either way, as we'll get into it with other questions. But yeah, so but yeah, I think critically and also just with audiences and critically, I do think that these two movies are stand tall as like even the less divisive sort of movies as well. But yeah, even though but I just think they're the best that showcase his abilities, and yeah.
and I'm just gonna let Tom on that was
What, Malcolm? You didn't want to try to squeeze in 8 more points in 3 seconds? All right, that's fine. All right, we'll go back to Richie. This will be both of you guys' 60 seconds close for this round. So, Richie, whenever you start speaking.
I think Drew Goddard Drew Goddard has a better filmography because one he was like the first one to utilize him in a way which showcases like all not only his acting ability, his charisma, and was able to expand on that in Bad Times at El Royale, and really really push forward with it, and and I just feel like with Russo brothers, yeah, like they make Thor a layered character, but they're also capitalizing on on someone else's sort of work with Thor, because prior to that, Thor's a boring character. So if you didn't have Taika's work, Thor would still be a boring character, in my opinion. So I think Drew Goddard really has a better filmography here, and I just think Kevin Woods is better than Endgame.
Okay, all right, and we'll go to Malcolm for your final closing whenever you begin speaking.
Yeah. So while Drew Goddard may have utilized Chris Hemsworth better in his movies, I think that him in those movies, I think he was really overshadowed by the other characters in those movies. And I think with the Russo brothers, well, yes, they are sort of taking what Taika did with him in for Ragnarok and sort of just expanding on it in the Infinity War. I stand by what I said. I think Infinity War and Endgame is they are a hard job of closing off a whole 10-year arc of the MCU, and they managed to do it perfectly, and even for got a lot of great moments in those movies, especially when they had him go through his like whole depression arc sort of thing. So yeah.
Okay, and that is going to do it for this one, you guys. Thank you very much for those arguments. as I will get that timer off the screen and take you guys out, and we will go to our judging portion here. I will see you guys in just a minute. So let's bring in our judges. We've got Maria. There's Maria. There's Zachary. Hopefully Ryan is there. Ryan,
I'm
are you
here.
there?
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
he's there with audio only, but he is here. Good to hear you, Ryan. Not so much see you, but good to hear you, Ryan. All
Yeah.
right, so that's all right. We're gonna go to you last and see. Make sure you guys kind of have your boards ready as far as who you've got. I know Ryan, you're just audio, but kind of have your decision ready. I don't really do fact checking like like Aaron does. I'm like not one of those guys unless it's something I just kind of know off the top of my head. I'll just say I think all these movies are pretty good. All right, so and Chris Hemsworth has a decent amount of range. So all right, well, but having said that, Maria, we're gonna go to you first. Who won it for you and why? Make sure you take yourself off that mute there before you start talking.
I forgot.
No, you're good. There you go.
I'm going to go with Richie. And the
Okay.
reason is, as you can see, I took copious notes, which I always do, but sometimes they make more sense later.
I appreciate it.
He had a couple good points. He brought up the idea that, not the idea, but he, although Malcolm had said that, the Russo brothers had showcased Chris as much as they could in those movies without being, doing anything too outlandish. He said he thought maybe it was Taika Waititi that brought out the, inner clown or funny guy, rather than giving the Russo brothers that credit, and that they just take advantage of the the opportunity, which kind of made sense to me. Also, that now Malcolm had a good point that he finds other characters in these movies more interesting, like Cabin in the Woods or whatever. However, Richie came back with he was used in the best way, utilized more of him by himself, showing his range than he did in Endgame or Infinity War. So I just thought the point went to Richie.
Okay, sounds good. Point to Richie. Zach, what do you got?
I also am going with Richie, and more because two things that Richie kept bringing up, and it was he was utilized more and he showed more range in those movies. So for that, I went with Richie.
Okay. Well, we've got our 2 points there. So Ryan, we'll get to you in just a second, I promise, when we shift the judges there. But we do not need your point at this stage. So thank you, judges, very, very much. I'm going to drop you back out here and bring our competitors back in. All right. So Richie getting the first point in the first round there, going up 1-0, but still plenty of time for Malcolm to catch up, as that was the first one. So we'll go on to our next question, guys. And what this one is we got The Little Mermaid in theaters, and it's a little bit divisive, I think. Maybe more so because people might be getting tired of these live action remakes and, doing these movies that people love. But we're going to talk about those Disney live action remakes, but in a more positive way. So what it's going to be this time is we ask the competitors that what is the best Disney live action remake. So we want to talk about some good movies here, and we'll find out what each of these guys has to say as far as that one goes. So I will drop myself out. Now that I know how to do it, I can do it quickly. See, there we go. All right. So got to reset my timer here, and we'll get things going. This time, Malcolm is going to be first on this one. So, Malcolm, I will begin this timer, your 60 seconds, whenever you begin.
Yes. So, I picked Cinderella as the best Disney live action remake, and the reasons I did it, they managed to take a movie which, I honestly, like on a rewatch, it's the anime movie's not as interesting as I remember it as a kid. But they managed to take that, expand on some of that lore, and actually give a really compelling story. And I think Kenneth Branagh really did a good job of like taking it and making a really good movie. And I think it also helps with a lot of the cast as well, because you got Helena Bonham Carter's fairy godmother, and I think it was Lily James that played Cinderella, and yeah, all that is just all works. And I think
time on the 60. All right, we're gonna head over to Richie. Malcolm goes with Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella, and we'll find out what Richie picked whenever you begin speaking, sir.
Yeah. So I wanted to go with something that kind of, blends, live action well with the CGI and has a great story and has reason for existing. And so I went with Jungle Book. I think Jungle Book is is a better one. John Favreau does a really good job here. The voice cast is amazing. Idris Elba, Scarlett Johansson is and yeah, Mowgli is really good, and I just think I think everything about this works. And yeah, it's one of the few ones where I'm like, oh yeah, I actually can't. Yeah, I want to explore this world, whereas the other live action ones, I don't think mesh the CGI and live action as well, and the story is not as engaging. But they found the right formula here, and I think this works more than a lot of the other ones.
Okay, Richie going with John Favreau's Jungle Book from 2016. Malcolm, we'll go back to you to expand on Cinderella whenever you begin speaking.
Yeah, I mean, Cinderella is like as I said in my opening, like Kenneth Branagh takes the animated movie and then manages to expand on some of the themes and stuff, and actually kind of make it somewhat more interesting. And it's just one of those ones like Kate Blanchett as the mother was or Lady Tremaine, all that. They managed to sort of get sort of more depth, and they actually managed to sort of make more sense, so to speak. And it's just one of those that really manages to sort of make the story seem much more interesting. And the problem with the Jungle Book is the main character, while I do think he was good in the movie, a lot of his acting when he's interacting with likes of Shere Khan, Balu, and all that, it just doesn't seem natural at times, and just mostly because like he is basically talking to himself on the sound stage, and it's just I yield this my time.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just gonna let that timer run out there before we jump back over to Richie. I think the dogs approve that answer for Malcolm, so they approve his expansion. But Richie, we'll go back to you in just a second. As soon as that timer runs down, you can begin speaking, sir.
Yeah. One of the big things that just make Jungle Book work is the voice cast. Bill Murray as Baloo just works. Everything, like Idris Elba works. Scarlett Johansson as Snake works, and like I see your point about the boy plays Mowgli and interacting with the characters, but and not being realistic. But I mean, I could probably get into it, but the Cinderella interacting with the CGI mice who they couldn't actually animate talking, so it looked like she was talking, literally talking to herself. I'll take the Jungle Book. Maybe unrealistic over that anytime. I just feel like it. I think you eventually eventually kind of get over that hurdle of that that kind of weird interaction because of this really visually spectacular world that he's created, and I think while that that interaction can be awkward, I think he still does a really amazing job, given that he's yeah, like he is essentially talking to nobody. But like, yeah, I think I still feel the emotion. I still feel a lot of things that come out from it. So I think that it should be commended. But yeah, I think if the worst thing you can say about the movie is that the interactions are a bit awkward sometimes. I think that that's only a proof positive for the movie, that it's actually one of the best Disney live actions that we've got so far. So yeah.
All right, and those will be the 2-minute expansions there. We'll go to the 4-minute open debate. You guys do watch the timer. Make sure you're giving the other opponent a chance to speak. Don't hog too much of it. And we'll get into there whenever the first person starts speaking. We'll start the 4 minutes.
Yeah, so yes, like as you bring up, like when Cinderella's talking to the CGI Myers, it is awkward and that. It's only a small part of Cinderella. Like it's one that you can like it happens. Well, yes, it looks awkward. It's just a small part of that movie, and it goes on. The whole of the Jungle Book is pretty much reliant on Mowgli interacting with the CGI animals. Like, well, yes, I'll give like the voice cast of the Jungle Book is great. But it's also and I think it's enough that makes it work for sure. But I think it's once again, I think it does like take me out of the movie at times. It still doesn't really feel overly natural still. But
Yeah,
with Cinder,
yeah. I'm just thinking it's like we really had to make it like overly natural, but I think like maybe overstating how like how awkward it is. I think it's not as awkward. I think you kind of settle into it after a while, and it's still it doesn't become as sort of bothersome. It's you get used to it. Whereas I think I think with Cinderella's, the CGI is like the least of its problems. Like, yeah, obviously the mice thing, yes, small portion of the movie, but yeah, but you also got the ugly CGI with the horse and carriage. That's weird. But then, to be honest, like I don't know, I like Lily James. I think she's really wooden as Cinderella here. I don't I like. You'd even forgotten that she was in this movie. I think Kate Blanchett steals the film here. I just think that they're pretty bland, and I feel like for a Disney live action movie, I feel like if you're a remake, you should have like I almost feel like you should have a reason for justifying your existence. Like what are you doing? Like what are you doing differently to to the existing IP? Like what are you doing? Like why? What are you doing that's new? And it's like I came into it and I came out of it going, well, maybe it's fine and everything, but I've seen it. I've already seen it. They didn't do anything with it. And it was just very bland. I thought James Marsden as Prince Hamlet was bland. It's just like and I wanted to see more of I want to see more of like the Eel stepsisters, especially Kate Blanchett. I thought she did. I thought she stole the movie, whereas I thought the actual title character you're supposed to root for was like she's just sort of there. It sort of just had sort of Lion King syndrome where they did a
You're
remake.
gonna stop the timer. Please let your opponent speak, Richie. This is a back and forth. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it. Well, yes. They didn't do much different in Cinderella, but neither did Jungle Book. Jungle Book was also relatively very similar to the animated movie, like that. But and it's one of those ones like with Cinderella, I do think it worked and everything, but with Jungle Book, I think when they try, I think the songs really weren't
All right.
as like.
That's time.
Well, yeah,
That's time
Yeah.
on the back and forth. Yeah, I don't mean to be rude, but I know Malcolm's a very courteous guy. He's not going to cut somebody off, but I'm sorry, I just have to if somebody starts to monologue for 3 minutes. So my apologies. But
That's
the way
all
it's
good.
got-
Yeah,
the way it's got to go. The way it's got to go. It is a back and forth. We need both competitors to speak. But having said that, we're back to our solo time. So Malcolm, I will begin your 60-second closing whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So basically with Jungle Book, like it's like a pretty. I mean, it's a good movie. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's a really terrible movie. It's good. It's just that with the main character being the only live action component of it, and it does take you out of the movie with some interactions, and I think especially a lot of the soul from the original anime movie was the music, which I think was really taken down and downplayed in the remake. But I do think Christopher Walken doing King Louis' song was still good. But Cinderella, I think, well, yes, it is still basically the same story, but they managed to breathe more life into the anime movie and made it more interesting by making it live action.
All right, time for Malcolm, and Richie will go to you for your close.
Yeah. I just want to, I don't know how it sort of makes it more interesting. I just think everything about Cinderella is sort of bland and sort of wooden. Like I said, the best character is a side character in Kate Blanchett, and with the evil stepsisters, and especially Kate Blanchett. And I just don't see the reason for it existing other than that, they want to use the IP. Jungle Book, at least, like John Favreau, is good at creating this great world, and maybe the music soul is missed here, but like I don't think that it took you out of the film. I think you're still ingrained with these characters who are very, like they're really lovable, engaging characters. Where I can't say the same thing for Cinderella. I actually think Cinderella could use sort of musical numbers to kind of maybe prop it up a bit. But yeah, I think Jungle Book is the best live action film we've got so far.
All right, and that is a close on that question. Excellent work, gentlemen. I think you both had very good points there, so we will see how strong they were overall. Again, my apologies for cutting you off, but I just kind of have to when I notice somebody.
Yeah, that's all right, man. I got carried away.
I know Malcolm's not as ruthless as I am in a debate with. No, you made your point. Now it's my turn to talk. So that's just my nature. Malcolm's just too nice for that, and I can certainly appreciate that. So I'm going to bounce you guys out of here. Let's bring in our judges here, and this time we will go Zach first. Then Ryan, and then Maria if needed. Once again, Ryan is joining us via audio, so we'll go to him in just a second. I have to admit one thing. I've never seen that Kenneth Branagh Cinderella. I don't know what it is. Just never watched it. But hey, it sounds interesting. I'll get around to it someday, maybe on Disney Plus. Zach, if you're ready, sir, who did you get your point to on this one and why?
I will say it all came down to the last minute for me because it was very back and forth. And for me, I think Richie actually took it more because he brought up how the side characters were more enjoyable than the main the side characters in Cinderella were more entertaining than Cinderella herself, and that maybe they needed some musical numbers just to liven it up more. And for that, I went with Richie.
Okay, sounds good. Ryan, are you there, sir?
Yes, I am here.
All right, Ryan joining us via audio, sir, but he is there. Hopefully you could hear everything. Who did you go with in this one and why?
I definitely heard everything.
Excellent.
To me, honestly, well, okay, I'll just straight and simple. I'm on the opposite. My point went to Malcolm. While Richie did bring up some good points there, the thing with Malcolm was that he had a point and he stayed focused on it when he was arguing, especially about adding a little bit of elements in the live action Cinderella that was a little better compared to when he did the animation. With Richie, though, when he was speaking, he mainly just kept talking about the world Jon Favreau built, and the voice cast that he brought in, but I didn't hear any examples of the cast standing out. It was just more likely like, okay, here's this actor playing this role. Can I get some examples here? Well, Malcolm, he did at least brought up some examples with Kate Blanchett playing Lady Tremaine. That definitely helps, add more to his argument.
Okay, Ryan going with Malcolm on this one. So Miss Maria, Maria, it comes down to you. Who do you got and why?
I picked Malcolm.
Okay.
I thought that he made a very good point. With the songs weren't as good. That the acting was, I get the idea of the kid not being able to act and having to be guided, but it did get a little old. I mean, the kid did have some issues, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't obvious, but it was still, a little annoying at times. I felt, and I thought he did a good job of kind of picking the things in the Jungle Book that weren't as great as what had been done in Cinderella, as far as like character development and the things that the like the CGI mice. One thing, okay, but the other movie had a lot of CGI and it had some problems as well. I just think Malcolm did a better job of selling the idea that the live action Cinderella had turned out better overall than Jungle Book.
Okay, so Maria giving the point to Malcolm, and that gives him the point for the round. Malcolm tying it up here. Thank you, judges. We'll come back to you in just a couple of minutes. I appreciate it as we bring in our competitors. So Malcolm tying it up with that, making it interesting. We've got 1-1 now, as we've got a debate now, man. I like it. So let's go to the third question. So we will get to that fourth question eventually because it's not going to be a knockout scenario. So luckily, I can't wait to hear you guys for that one. We'll talk about that when we get there. But before we get there, there's a studio that is very polarizing in the world right now. It's a little studio called A24. It's kind of a situation where you kind of either love them or you hate them, or they make movies you love and they make movies you hate. They dive into a lot of genres, but I like the answers that the guys gave this one because it's going to make for a very interesting argument. So, but we're going to talk about another one in the positive light. What's the best A24 movie? And again, I think when you guys see these answers, you'll see why this is going to be an interesting debate when we get to it. So let's do that. I'll take myself out of this thing. All right, let me reset our timer here and we will get to it. Richie, we will go back to you to speak first on this one, sir, and I'll start your 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so A24 sort of taking the filming, the movie world by storm over the last few years, and but I think the one that stands out to me as just slightly better than all the rest. Is Hereditary. I think Hereditary is just amazing. Everything about this was just the story. I think it reignited the conversation of that horror should be recognized at the Oscars, especially like Toni Collette. She's amazing in this film. Just the emotional range she goes through throughout this film, and it's just it gets wild and wacky like A24. It's everything you want from a A24 movie. It is. It's a phenomenal movie and one I could rewatch over and over again, and probably will at least every Halloween. So I'll go Hereditary.
Okay, Richie going with Hereditary, and we'll find out what Malcolm went with. Malcolm, we'll start your 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
So when this question came up, like my mind was going to go one way. Then when Richie gave his answer, like, yeah, I'm going to have to do this. I went with Midsummer. It's the standard debate that everyone has between these two movies. But look, I went for Midsummer because I think it's almost I think it's a perfect movie. And Florence Pugh is amazing in this, and she definitely should have been nominated for an Oscar for Midsummer, as well as Little Woman. Midsummer is just one of those horror movies. It's really mind bending, and that yes, it's not so much about the actual like jump scares and that, but it's more psychological, elevated horror, which is
All right,
fun.
that is time on that one. So yeah, you guys can see why I was excited for them to get to this question, because not only did they pick 2 horror movies, which I love a good horror debate, but they picked 2 Ari Aster horror movies. So it's Ari Aster versus Ari Aster. I like it very, very much. Well, let's see. Richie, why don't you go ahead and span, sir, on your 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Hereditary is just I like it because I mean Ari Aster, you don't know what you're gonna get. He's a very weird dude, like, but in a good weird dude in a good way. But like, yeah, I feel like it's like it starts off as like you kind of straightforward one, but then as soon as as soon as like the daughter dies and that horrific getting a getting decapitated. Spoiler alert here and say, shit, like it just like the movie does like a 180, and then like the emotional grief and the kind of the all the gamut of emotions she goes Tony Collette goes through is amazing, and Nat Wolff the guilt he goes through is just like and all that is amazing, and then when Ann Dowd comes on the on the scene with and then you introduce like supernatural elements. It's got everything you want out of a 24 film, and it doesn't get sort of I don't know. I think, and as you've seen maybe with like reviews of like Beau's Afraid, I think maybe what Ari Aster has an issue with sometimes, he can get like bogged down in his maybe like sort of maybe like pretentiousness, and I feel like sometimes I feel like while I like Midsommar, I feel like there are shades of that in Midsommar where like I like messaging in the movie, but there's a lot of just like stuff like weird stuff like the cult stuff where it's not as easy to grasp onto like a Hereditary, and Hereditary is more one that I come back to, whereas Midsommar is one that's kind of a bit more, bit less accessible for me, and I feel like it would be less accessible for others as well. So yeah.
All right. So Richie expanding there on Hereditary. Malcolm, we'll go to you for your expansion whenever you're ready.
It's famous. The issues you have with Midsommar, I have with Hereditary. Like, I think Hereditary is like at times just really overstuffed. I think it's just one that like it's when I first watched it, I just didn't like it. I warmed up a little bit to it on a rewatch, but it's still just one of those ones that I think is good, but I think it just doesn't wholly work for me a lot of and it's just and also like I do like Toni Collette's acting in it. I just think everyone was over exaggerating that she should have been nominated for an Oscar. I really disagree with that because I think the people who were nominated deserve to be nominated. And yeah, but with Midsommar, I think it's just a really interesting cult movie, and I think Florence Pugh does a lot of acting in this, and I think she just does a lot more than what Toni Collette did in Hereditary, and I think is a more interesting of a protagonist in this, and I think yes, I'll yield the rest of my time.
Okay, sounds good. Malcolm's going to yield the rest of that time. I'll just let that run down so I don't get too goofy with my scroller here. But yeah, good so far. We'll get into the back and forth again. Richie and Malcolm, please just be aware a little bit of your time. Let the other person speak. Don't ramble on too long. Other than that, let's get into our 4 minutes, and I'll begin that whenever the first person starts speaking.
You can go first, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I mean, with Midsommar, it's not just like Florence Pugh that is great. It's like Jack Grainer and Will Poulter, and even William Jackson Harper, I think, are all equally as good in the movie. I think their chemistry was really on point, and they're the only really sort of known actors in this, but all the other supporting cast in the movie, I think, is incredible as this cult, and just to be this whole really creepy kind of cult this group.
I just feel like it's just I find Hereditary would be more accessible to horror fans. If you like your weird, strange, like areas of stuff, then maybe that is for you. But I just feel like that's a bit more niche. I feel like Hereditary is a bit more grounded in that. Yeah, there has that weird stuff, and it packs a lot in, but it's not as like it's like, oh yeah, this movie is a metaphor about grief, mental health, and all that. But then here's another weird Swedish cult imagery, and here's another thing that's bizarre that you have to unpack. It's not as it doesn't throw. I don't feel like it throws as much at you as Hereditary does, or not in the fast succession either. I just feel like it's a bit more accessible to maybe the casual viewer than Midsommar is. That where like I think Midsommar he had the success of Hereditary, and he's like, I'm going to be a bit more ambitious and swing to the fences, which I admire that, but I just feel like it a little I kind of little column A, a little column B, where it's like he has his influence, but also kind of stays grounded. It's probably more palatable area stuff for me, but that's me personally.
I mean, look, for me, when it comes to Hereditary, there's nothing much that they do in Hereditary that you wouldn't see in any other kind of demon type possession movie. Well, the storyline itself is unique, but I think a lot of the scares and stuff are really typical of other demon possession movies, and I just think it's just one that really gets tired after a while. But
you don't see. I'd argue you wouldn't see as much twisted turds. I'd argue you wouldn't see like your average demon possession movie doesn't have these type of performances. The average demon possession movies is very like your Devil's Due or your Devil Inside, very kind of shoddily made movies. I feel like Hereditary at least has more layers to it, has more care than your average demon possession movie, and I do feel like it has more layers in terms of like the thematics throughout it. So yeah, I'd probably push back on how it's like not too dissimilar to your average demon possession movie. I think that there is more to it than that.
But yeah, I mean, it like to me, Midsommar's like more than just a cult movie as well. Like, well, yes, the cult is a big part of it. I think like the whole actual story of this group of friends and that.
Time. All right, time on the back and forth. We will go back to Richie for your final 60 seconds, sir.
Yeah. Overall, I think Hereditary is more memorable because it's a more accessible movie. It's just it doesn't throw as much kind of your kind of strange Ariasta like kind of isms at you that where you feel like you feel like dumb if you don't get yes, Florence Pugh is great, but like I do feel like Toni Collette is that upper echelon better. She's the one that ignited that conversation, and people are talking about Florence Pugh, but not in the same realm as Toni Collette. And you have other performances that are great. Nat Wolff and Dowd is great, but Mum couldn't even recall the other I like this as much. So I just feel like Hereditary is just more accessible, and it's just a better film overall. Just for horror fans, and just and just in general, and I think it's better than Midsommar.
Okay, that is time for Richie. Malcolm, we'll go back to you for your final 60.
I mean, it's not that I didn't recall the other actors of Midsommar, but a lot of them are unknown Swedish actors that are not really known outside of Sweden. So, I mean, and it's, but with Hereditary, it's just one of those ones like, I think it's just one of those movies that, it's just like, well, for a demon possession movie, I just found it really slow, and plus it's one of those ones like, as you, it's Ari Aster's first movie. Like, no one really knew what to expect from this director with his Ari Aster. So it was like, so he probably, it was probably more accessible because he wanted people to see it, so he could get money to go more out there. But it's just, I just think Midsommar is
time. All right, that is time for the back and forth there. All right, got another good debate on that one. And if we were to say worst A24 movie, I hate Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That movie
I hate
sucks.
Bodies as
That
well.
movie
I would have
sucks.
said that.
But we're not talking about worst. We're talking about best. But that's just my personal opinion. We'll get to
I
that
would have said
question
it too.
at some point. All right, but I'm just giving my judges a chance to put their thoughts together. I'm going to bring them in here in just a second. Let's get rid of these guys. This one is going to be Ryan first. And hey, look at Ryan. He's right there. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, what's up?
All right. It's going to be Ryan, then Maria, then Zach. So we've got Ryan on screen now. I'm very happy about that. But hopefully you guys have got your thoughts together and are ready to go. Ryan, you are going to be first up on this one, on this A24 question. Who'd you have and why?
Clearly, both of them brought up two good movies. Personally, A24, I would have picked Men, but that's another thing. But my point goes to Malcolm. He and Richard have a great back and forth, but Malcolm got the edge because besides bringing up the main characters, the lead actors of both films, Malcolm did at least bring up more of the side of the supporting cast, not just by naming them, but also involving the chemistry they had and involving more around the plot of Midsommar instead of just, he gave a little more he gave a little more points to his film, just to hold it to support his argument.
Okay, sounds good. Maria, you will be up next with your points. Make sure you unmute yourself before you give me some thoughts there. All right, there you go. All right,
I voted. My point goes to Richie.
Okay.
I thought that he made a very good point of that the Midsommar is more like a weird kind of cult movie, a little bit more difficult to understand, difficult to figure out, whereas Hereditary is more accessible to the normal horror crowd or people that are not, like me. That I understood Hereditary pretty well. I thought it was pretty good, but I'm not a horror fan. So I think he made a good point of that. Malcolm had some good points too, but I think in the end, Richie had also said that it wasn't just only demon possession like all those other kind of films are nowadays. It was more accessible again, and that's why I gave him the point.
Okay, well, Ahsoka gives the point to Richie. Sounds good. All right, thank you. We'll go to Zach next for the final 1-1. Zach, who do you got?
So I also went with Rich, and kind of the big point that Maria brought up that really stuck with me is that Hereditary is more accessible to people and not niche or a movie that you really have to dive deep into and that anybody could enjoy. So for me, I went with Richie for that point.
Okay, well, Malcolm got the last one. Richie bouncing back with this one. Thank you so much, judges. We'll come back to you here in just a second for our fourth question. I'm going to drop you guys out here and bring our competitors back in. All right, so Richie bouncing back with that one. It's now 2-1. Malcolm, it is not over yet. We've got question number 4 here. You could tie it up in some of the blind round with this one. So we will see what happens on this one. But yeah, this is a fun little question, and it's a question I had a pitch for, but for myself and Henry, but we never got to, and we were going to pitch something for Scream 6. This was before it came out, but now that Scream 6 is out and has been out, we're going to talk about Scream 7, which is probably inevitable given the fact that I believe Scream 6 made over $100 million, something like that. It was a big hit, so you know, they're going to keep the money train and the franchise going with the radio silence gentlemen. So yeah, we're gonna ask the question. It's not so much a question, just so much of a pitch. So both these guys are going to pitch their perfect Scream 7. So it's a pitch question, which should be very, very interesting. All right, I am going to drop myself out, bring these guys in, reset my timer, and I want to hear what these pitches are because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Malcolm, you are going to go first on this one, sir. So we will get to your 60 seconds whenever you begin speaking.
Yeah, so basically my pitch for Scream 7 is basically like at the start of the movie, at the opening kill, so to speak, it's going to open up on Sydney and Mark's house as Sydney's trying to find her children, but she can't find. Then she gets a video call from the killer that's using a burner phone, and it shows that her daughter's tied up at a house. I mean, then the killer says, have you checked on Mark? And then it's revealed that Mark is dead in the opening scene, which sort of leads into kicks off the plot, and then you'll go to Kirby contacting like Sam, Taylor, Mindy, and that. Then explains what happens, and then they go to restaurant, and then they try to
time on the 60, Malcolm. I'll let you expand on that in just a second here, but yeah, that is the basic pitch. All right, so Richie, we will go to you first for your initial pitch here whenever you begin speaking.
My pitch basically follows kind of the familiar plot lines of Scream 3, because Scream 6 followed the same plot as Scream 2 with two killers. I'm gonna, or multiple killers. So Scream 3 is gonna have like, an actor from the Stab series that is going to, gonna wreak havoc, and then basically going to explain that the Stab movies ruined her her career because they couldn't escape escape that kind of stigma of being in the Stab movies. And the killer in the film is going to be Heather Graham from she was the she played Drew Barrymore's character in the first one. So I think that'd be a lot of fun, and I think it'll be on point with how they're going.
All right, sounds good. We've got two fun little pitches here. Let's see how they expand on them and really pitch them. Malcolm, I know you ran out of time there, but you got another 2 minutes to expand on, sir. Whenever you're ready, I'll hit that timer.
Yeah. So the rumor is Scream 7 is potentially going to be the closing chapter in this franchise. So basically, when the gang and that goes to Woodsboro, they start from a plan. Then Gail sees something in the alleyway, and in an alleyway, and then Gail goes to check it out with the others not noticing that she's slipped away. A TV falls on her, but she sees it, jumps out of the way, only for it to turn out to be a distraction. Ghostface kills Gail and then uses Gail's phone, and then they bring back the voice changes and call the gang, and then the killer gets the group to split up and goes to various locations, going back to the school from the first movie, Windsor College, and then Stu's house. So when they split up, Kirby goes missing, and everyone assumes that she's a killer. But then, by the end of the movie, everyone gets sort of blindsided and tied up in Sydney's old Sydney's old house, and tied up beside the beside her family, and then the three Ghostface killers sort of confront them. Kirby is the first one that reveals herself, but then it turns out that she then turns on the two Ghostface killers and tries to kill them, but then Kirby kills, and then the two killers themselves reveal themselves to be.
Time on you, Malcolm. We'll get back to you in just a minute. Richie, it's time for your 2-minute expansion whenever you're ready.
I like how you ended on a cliffhanger there. That was good. I think it kind of sort of like doing a Scream 3 thing kind of ish, maybe it would be in line with what they're doing at the moment. They're kind of being meta about those movies, and so having like a Scream 3-ish movie where it's like an act from the stab movies that, you know, maybe is disgruntled because you know, the movies ruin their career. I think that'd be kind of fun, and you have like a new Nightmare scenario in a way, because we never had like a proper like someone playing like themselves or playing an extended version of themselves being the killer, and I think that'd be kind of fun. But obviously you got to be careful you're not straying into parody territory. But I think that'd be fun. I just don't like the idea of bringing Sydney back. Like I think her like, you know, I know there was contract negotiations that went all right, but like I think they explained perfectly why she was in the sixth one. It's like, you know, her story's over. Like, let her have a happy ending. Like, I feel like you're just gonna bring her back, and I just feel like it'd be kind of desperate. I just think you should focus on these new characters, and I just don't think I think Sydney's story is finished, and I think there's this new world you can explore here, and I don't even know, don't know why they would go back to Westboro anyway. Like, you know, they've gone to New York. There's plenty of places you could take the Scream franchise, and I just think going exclusive to Westboro kind of just limits you. In my pitch, because it's like about stab and everything. I think I would keep it in New York, but maybe also have elements of LA in it too. So so it feels more fresh as opposed to a retread.
All right, time. All right, 2 interesting pitches there. Yeah, Malcolm ended on a cliffhanger. Maybe he'll leave us on a cliffhanger, not tell us what happens at the very, very end. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll start the 4-minute open debate whenever the first person starts speaking.
As I said, the rumor is that Scream 7 will be the last one and to sort of close out the franchise, and it's one of those ones like, well, yes, they like there was the whole contract negotiations with Nev that fell through and all that, but I think I do still think like Sydney might still be part of their plans, because they did make a point of mentioning her in 6 when they didn't really need to. And I think if this is the concluding chapter of the series, I think tying it up back to Sydney and is a good way to go. And it's just one of those ones. But yeah.
Well, I disagree that it didn't need to mention anything. It would be silly not to forget that she even exists. They had to mention something. So I think by saying, like Sydney deserves a happy ending, like she just be home, I think that's a perfect kind of send off. You don't need to bring it back. I think bringing it back would just be desperate. And then like what and then in that regard, what do you do? With the other characters, what do you do with Samantha? What do you do with Jennifer Ortega's character? What do you do with the other characters that you built up? Like, they're just going to become secondary. You've built them up to be kind of these people that this next generation of characters that you take over. So I don't know why you feel like bringing them back would just become desperate. And the the Scream 7. It's just a rumor that it might be the last one. We don't know that for sure. I'm sure if it's the last one, maybe have her, Nev cameo, but I just don't see the point in having her have a massive role.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those ones like, yes, like I do get your point on that, but I think it's also one of those ones that, I think even if it's not, I think this is still a good way to finish off Cindy's story anyway. And it's one of those ones like, and it's basically it's like with Sam and Tara and that, like they're going to have their own sort of adventures in this as well. Like, but basically, in this, like for what I've not played, they're still going to have their moments in the story. But like once at the end of the movie, it is revealed that the killers is going to be the returning Stu Macher, who they've also been laying that thread that Stu's not really dead. But I'm also going to have it reveal that Ethan from Scream 6 is also not really dead, and they're both sort of are going to be revealed that they're related. I wouldn't.
I'd hate that because that Ethan for sure is dead. That dude is deader than dead. But yeah, and I just feel like with my one, you'd have like it'd be more meta. You would like you could bring in other actors and it kind of be fun, and then you could the killer wouldn't be this kind of like this legacy, this other I'm the cousin of this person. It'll be something new and something fresh, and it will stick with New York and LA and not just going to Woodsboro just for the sake of it.
All right, and that's going to be it for that. I will give you that 2 seconds back, Malcolm. But yeah, we'll get into our closes here. Could be the final closes of the match, may not be. We will see. Could come down to this. Malcolm, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that like the theme of the last two Scream movies, like the killers has been a legacy type character anyway, because in the first one it was Amber that was related to I can't remember who it was at the moment, but and then you had Richie's father, who was related to Richie from 5. So the whole legacy being a killer is kind of enshrined with these radio silence movies, and so I think if they continue on, I think they're probably going to go with another legacy type Ghostface, and I think they're doing a whole bait and switch by making the last two movies in line with the fact that they've been sort of echoes of Screams 1 and 2. I think it's going to be a bait and switch.
Time. All right, Richie, your final 60 seconds. What could be the end of the match may not be. We'll see. 60 seconds. Whenever you're ready.
See, my pitch gets away from having legacy characters or relations to legacy characters being a killer. I think that trope is kind of run its course and it's kind of getting tiresome. So like having like an actual actress be the killer, I think would be kind of fun. And it pays homage to Scream 6 while also kind of like not. And I want to pay homage without it also being a retread, and also just furthering the story of it being being in New York and maybe LA, and not just having Sydney back to have Sydney back. Yeah, even if the rumors are true and it is the last one, to have her the main character and then to relegate Jenna Ortega to secondary characters kind of like feels like a step backwards. And even having Kirby suspected being the killer feels like what we did in the last one. So I just feel like this pushes the franchise forward a bit.
All right, and time. That is going to do it. Good job, guys. Both pitches that are a lot of fun, and I might like to see. But we will see what the judges think about those pitches. I'll drop you guys out, and we will see what happens here. So here we go. And as I will bring in my judges back into here. All right. All right, judges. Yeah, kind of like a pitch question, a little bit something on a different pace. I like it. Pitch questions are always interesting because we're not in charge of Hollywood, but if we were, what would we do? What would the fans do? But good stuff there. We'll see what happens here. We got a close matchup. So Maria, we're going to go to you first. Who got the point for this one and why?
Easiest thing in the world.
Right. Exactly.
Richie, I gave the point to. I'll tell you why I did. Richie had lots of good points about his own pitch, but he also had a bunch of points about Malcolm's pitch. And unfortunately, this time I didn't hear anything Malcolm said that was about Richie's ideas. More about selling, like he was on the ropes and Richie was making him, say why he should still have Sydney and still have all the old legacy characters. So, and also Malcolm, Richie had a pitch about doesn't agree that it's an old trope that's ran its course. Sydney's over, etc. So I point went to Richie. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Malcolm.
no, you don't have to apologize. It's what you thought.
I love them both.
I know, me too. Zach, who do you got? And why?
I also went with Richie, and for 2 points. One, because like Maria said, Malcolm didn't talk one bit about the pitch that Richie had, but also Richie brought up the good point of saying how if you're going to bring back Sydney, what do you do with the other main characters that you have built up for the last couple movies? Are you just going to make them side characters again? And I don't think you would really do that at this point. So for that, I went with Richie.
Okay, well, that is going to do it. Ryan, we appreciate you being here. We do not need the point, unfortunately. I'm going to take you guys back out of here because... All right, guys, I'm going to bring you back in. Just do some time stamping here real quick, and we will go to the post show, but that is going to do it. All right, so I will go to the post show here in just a minute. I'm just making what Aaron does because he needs those little time stamps to help out with everything. So I'm going to make a few notes here. Judges, you guys are good. If anybody needs to hard out, you can leave. I just need the competitors here for the post shows, but if you want to hang around, you're welcome to do so. So that's up to you. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. If anybody needs to drop out, you certainly can. But with that, I think
I'm going to head out.
Okay, thank you, Zach.
No, Zach, see you, brother.
I love you both. Sorry, Malcolm.
No worries.
That's
No
all
worries.
good. You're good. You're good.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll get to the post show here in just a second. I'm going to update your things here, and then I will get to the post show here in just a second. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me take a little note here about when I'm going to come back. I'll come back around the 1:20. Okay. All right. I'm going to drop you guys out, and I'm going to go to Richie first, and then you, Malcolm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Your winner by a score of 3-1, the man from Australia we all know and love, Richie Nemo Goodacre. Richie, congratulations picking up a win tonight. How you feeling about that, man?
Yeah, man. Pretty good. Like I was hoping to get to that Scream question because that was probably the one I'm most passionate about. But Malcolm put up a good fight here, man. It definitely, I definitely felt like I had to, definitely had to earn my win, especially, the we'll just call it Ari Aster question.
It was supposed to be an A24 question, but it turned into an Ari Aster question.
So it was a good game, and I always enjoyed debating Malcolm, even if it's not a proper debate thing or whatever. No, but we got good chemistry, so it always ends up being a good show. So this was a lot of fun, and I'm look forward to see who I feel like I'm improving in this format, so I look forward to see who Aaron pairs me up with next.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, I don't have an opponent lined up for you here, according to those just yet. But with that win, you do go to 3 and 4. You're inching ever so closer to being 50-50, to having that 500 record, which has got to be feeling good that if you can get that one. But it does. Aaron did tell me that if you are able to, after your next match, get another win and get to that 500 portion, you could definitely sneak into that end of the year tournament. How do you feel about that if you were able to get that other win?
That'd be fun. I'd definitely be up for that challenge. So I look forward to it. Hopefully, I get that 50 win. A lot of pressure now, but I'm good.
Oh no, a little extra pressure for your next one, but maybe also just a little extra motivation to get that prep done and bring your arguments. So but there's definitely a shot there. It would be kind of a lower seed, so you may have to face some rougher opponents. But I know a little something about getting in a last minute tournament, so it can definitely happen. I've had ups and downs just like you, especially early. But I feel like you're getting better every day, man. So or every match, I should say. So you're close, man. I'm rooting for you to get to the 500, man. I think it can happen.
All right, man. That'll be good. I hope I do. Hope I get there.
All right, sounds good, man. Well, I'm going to drop you out and talk to your opponent here. Good job again, Richie. We'll see you in just a little bit. All right, let's talk to Malcolm Lay, the man who's just here to have a good time. But I felt like you had some good arguments here, man. I think you had Richie on the ropes a couple of times. You definitely brought it in that Disney question, and even in the Ari Aster question. I feel like you had some good stuff, man. How do you feel about your performance here?
I feel good. Like, I'm here to have fun and talk about movies. That's kind of thing. Like, I'm never here to be in contention to win belts.
Sure.
I
am, but not you. Hey, however you want to do it, man. But I can respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I honestly thought Richie had been the Disney live action one, but I'm glad I got the point anyway because it took us to this Scream one.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean, it's one of those ones like for the pitch questions, sometimes I feel like I need more time because I was focusing more on my own pitch and forgot to point out the faults in Richie's. But it is what it is.
No, that stuff definitely happens. I mean, pitch questions can be tough because you want to try to, really sell that one that you've got. But sometimes you forget to have time to kind of take down the other one. And I could definitely hear that one, man. But what do you hope for going forward, man? Do you want to keep just playing and having a good time? And
I'm always here to keep playing and having a good time.
I could definitely see Aaron pitching you up against some of these sort of rookie, competitors in here, giving them a chance to go up against like a veteran. But you're always fun to watch. You always have a good time, as like you say. But that being said, I'm going to wrap things up, as you would say. Malcolm Lay, always good to see you, sir. I'm going to drop you out here and wrap things up. A good little matchup. Like I said, a nice little international warfare. Back and forth here. Both guys doing a good job and having some really strong arguments here. I legit think it could have gone either way, even with that Scream question. I think it could have gone either way. It was good stuff there. I thought for a second we were going to have to go to our blind question, but we didn't. That being said, as Malcolm would say, we got some good stuff going up on the TMG Entertainment channel for Battleground. We've got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles exhibition, which if anybody Turtles fans out there can tune into. My title match with Amaru Moses is up on the channel if you want to check that out. And also going up this week will be a grudge match of sorts. Two guys who really threw down, and I know there's some legitimate beef there. Henry Sanchez will be going up against Jay Burns in a highly anticipated rematch. I can't wait to see it. Their first one was very contentious. Henry's very salty about that win. That loss. I think that was one of his first losses in the most recent couple of seasons. Those guys are going to throw down, and that should be a whole lot of fun. But having said that, I am your gracious guest host tonight, Austin Pez Howell. I'm going to wrap it up here for the Movie Battleground. Thank you so much for watching. If you're tuning in, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications so you know when each and every match goes live, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.